Ford has built some of the most iconic power plants in automotive history. Engines like the Coyote V8, the Boss 302, and the bulletproof 7.3-liter Powerstroke diesel. But not every Ford engine was a masterpiece. Some were plagued with catastrophic flaws, design oversights, and outright mechanical chaos. They've emptied wallets, ruined reputations, and in some cases, left owners completely stranded. So today, we're diving deep into the Ford's worst engine barrel. These are the 10 worst engines Ford has ever made. Number 10. Ford 2.3-liter Lima Inline-Four. Years in production: 1974 to 1997. Let's start with an engine that stuck around for way too long. The 2.3-liter Lima 4-cylinder was Ford's go-to economy engine in the post-oil crisis era. It found its way into the Pinto, Mustang II, Ranger, and even some Capris. On paper, it was simple and robust, but in reality it was underpowered, rough, and poorly tuned. With just 88 horsepower in early versions, acceleration was glacial. Carbureted models had major stalling issues, especially when cold, and were notorious for vacuum leaks. People nicknamed it the Lawnmower Engine for a reason. Worst of all, the Pinto versions gained infamy not just for poor performance, but for being bolted to gas tanks that could turn minor collisions into fireballs. Talk about adding insult to injury. Number 9. Ford 3.0-liter Powerstroke diesel V6. Years in production: 2018 to 2020. This one looked good on paper. A torquey diesel option for the F-150, promising fuel economy and towing muscle in a smaller package. But things unraveled quickly. The 3.0-liter Powerstroke used a CP 4.2 high-pressure fuel pump made by Bosch, originally designed for European diesel. Problem is, US diesel has a lower lubricity, which caused the pump to shred itself from the inside out. Metal shavings were then sent throughout the fuel system, killing injectors and lines. The fix? A full fuel system replacement, often costing $8,000 to $10,000. Ford switched to a CP3 pump in later models, but by then, the damage, both mechanical and reputational, was already done. Most owners never trusted the engine again. Number 8. Ford 4.2-liter Essex V6. Years in production: 1997 to 2008. This one was a ticking time bomb under the hood of thousands of F-150s, vans, and SUVs. It was supposed to be the beefed-up version of the earlier 3.8-liter SX, but instead it inherited all of its flaws and added a few more. The most catastrophic issue was its timing chain system. It used plastic guides that wore out by 100,000 miles or less. When those broke down, the chain could slip or jump teeth, sending valves crashing into pistons. Worse, the oil pump was driven by the same chain. So when the chain failed, oil pressure disappeared instantly, causing total engine failure. A $5 plastic guide could cost you a whole engine, and if that wasn't enough, intake manifold leaks, head gasket failures, and crank sensor issues were also common, not exactly confidence-inspiring. Number 7. Ford 1.0-liter EcoBoost Inline-3. Years in production: 2013 to present. A 3-cylinder engine with a turbocharger sounds like a clever way to boost fuel economy while still making usable power, but in practice, Ford's 1.0-liter EcoBoost has caused more headaches than savings. Its design features a wet timing belt that runs in oil. An unusual choice meant to reduce noise and friction. The downside? Over time, the belt breaks down and shreds particles into the oil system, clogging pickup screens and starving the engine of oil pressure. This leads to spun bearings, seized cams, and full engine replacements. On top of that, early models had severe overheating issues due to poor coolant flow. Ford tried to mitigate the damage with extended warranties, but many owners were stuck footing the bill before those programs kicked in. Number 6. Ford 4.4-liter Triton V8. Years in production: 2006 to 2012, outside North America. The 4.4-liter Triton V8 might be less known in the US, but for drivers in Europe and Australia, this engine was a nightmare. It was used in larger SUVs and trucks, and even in some Land Rovers under Ford's ownership. When its design traces back to Jaguar, its problems are universal. The biggest failure point? Coolant crossover pipes made of cheap materials that would corrode and leak into the cylinders. Add to that brittle plastic timing chain tensioners, persistent oil leaks, and nearly impossible to reach components. And you had an engine that terrified mechanics. Reliability was so poor that even basic servicing could lead to discoveries of massive internal wear. It never made its way into US F-150s, and thank goodness for that. Number 5. Ford 6.0-liter Powerstroke Diesel V8. Years in production: 2003 to 2007. This engine deserves a whole documentary of its own. Co-developed with Navistar International, the 6.0-liter Powerstroke was meant to replace the legendary 7.3-liter. Instead, it became one of the most problematic diesel engines of the 2000s. The list of issues is long. EGR coolant failures, head gasket blowouts, turbocharger issues, injector failures, and stretched head bolts. Oh, and the high-pressure oil system used for fuel injection? A ticking time bomb. The only reliable solution was to bulletproof it, an aftermarket overhaul that replaced nearly every known weak point. That fix cost thousands. Lawsuits followed. Ford and Navistar had a falling out, and to this day, the 6.0-liter Powerstroke is remembered as a painful misstep in Ford's diesel history. Number 4. Ford 3.8-liter Essex V6. Years in production: 1983 to 2008. This earlier member of the Essex family was supposed to be a reliable workhorse. Instead, it turned into one of the most failure-prone engines Ford has ever made. Its biggest flaw was weak head bolts that couldn't maintain proper torque. This led to head gasket failures, especially in minivans and front-wheel drive models, where the rear bank was harder to cool. The block itself was prone to porosity, meaning coolant could literally leak through the metal. Later models added a plastic intake manifold that cracked under normal use. In high-performance trims like the Thunderbird Super Coupe, this engine absolutely chewed through gaskets, especially when turbocharged. It somehow stayed in production for 25 years, but really it should have been retired much earlier. Number 3. Ford 5.4-liter Triton 3-valve V8. Years in production: 2004 to 2010. If you've ever owned a mid-2000s F-150 or Expedition, chances are you've either replaced this engine or met someone who did. The 3-valve, 5.4-liter Triton V8 was riddled with issues. Spark plugs were a two-piece design that seized in the cylinder head. Trying to remove them often broke the top half off, leaving the rest stuck deep in the head. Getting them out meant special tools or tearing everything apart. Cam phasers were another common failure point, causing a distinctive diesel-like rattle and ruining timing chains in the process. Combine that with oil leaks, worn timing components, and inconsistent performance, and you had one of the most headache-inducing engines Ford ever made. Technical service bulletins poured out, but for many owners, the fix came too late or not at all. Number 2. Ford 2.7-liter EcoBoost V6, first gen. Years in production: 2015 to 2017. Ford's EcoBoost program brought turbocharging to the masses, but early attempts weren't always flawless. The first-generation 2.7-liter V6 was one such example. The engine block was made with compacted graphite iron, which sounds fancy, but early castings were porous, allowing coolant to leak into the cylinders. This could cause hydro-locking, bent connection rods, and total engine failure. When it failed catastrophically. Ford later improved the design and quietly extended warranties in some cases. But owners were often denied repairs due to strict oil change documentation requirements. It left a bad taste for many early adopters. And replacement costs often exceeded the vehicle's value. Number 1. Ford 3.6-liter Powerstroke Diesel V8. Years in production: 2020 to 2022, Australia. Taking the crown is a diesel engine so bad that Ford couldn't kill it fast enough. The 3.6-liter Powerstroke was designed for the Australian market and promised to deliver efficient, mid-size diesel power. Instead, it delivered constant mechanical failure. Fuel injectors failed like clockwork every 30,000 miles. Turbochargers grenaded under normal use. The diesel particulate filter, DPF, clogged frequently, triggering limp mode and requiring full system flushes. Ford issued recalls in 2022, but by then the engine had already left thousands of owners with blown motors and enormous repair bills. It was quietly removed from all applications, and good riddance. As we've just seen, not all of Ford's engines were winners. From the self-destructing diesels to the plastic-filled V6 nightmares, these engines serve as reminders that even the biggest automakers can get it wrong. Some were the product of rushed development, others of cost-cutting gone too far. Whatever the cause, they've left their mark on the industry, and not in a good way.